family, and friends, we join together on this day to remember Neal Fenster. In our tradition, we remember through the words of the psalmist. There we look for comfort in this time of our grief. The psalmist wrote, Esayinai el heharim, me'ayin yavo Ezri. Ezri me'im Adonai oseh shamayim va'aretz. I lift up my eyes to the mountains. What is the source of my help? My help comes from Adonai, maker of heaven and earth. God will not let your foot give way. Your protector will not slumber. Behold, the protector of Israel neither slumbers nor sleeps. God is your guardian. God is your protection at your right hand. The sun will not strike you by day, nor the moon by night. Adonai yishmor tzetecha uvoecha me'ata v'ad olam. May the Eternal guard you from all harm. May the Eternal guard your soul in your going and your coming, now and forevermore. Mizmor LeDavid, Adonai roi lo echsar, benot desha yarbitzeni, al mei menuchot yinachaleni, nafshi yeshovev. The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. You make me lie down in green pastures. You lead me beside still waters. You restore my soul. You lead me in right paths for the sake of your name. Even when I walk in the valley of the shadow of death, I shall fear no evil, for you are with me. You have set a table before me in the presence of my enemies. You have anointed my head with oil, my cup runneth over. Surely goodness and mercy shall follow me all the days of my life, and I shall dwell in the house of the Eternal forever. O God, you've been our refuge in every generation. Before the mountains came into being, before you brought forth the earth and the world, from eternity to eternity, you are God. You return to dust. You decree, return, O mortals, for in your sight 1,000 years are as yesterday when it has passed as a watch in the night. You engulf us in sleep. We are like a grass that renews itself. At daybreak it flourishes anew. At dusk it withers and dries up. The span of our life is 80 years and 10, or given strength 80 years. But the best of those years have trouble and sorrow. They pass by speedily, and we are in darkness. Teach us, therefore, to number our days, that we may attain a heart of wisdom. Turn to us, O God. Show mercy to your servants. Satisfy us at daybreak with your steadfast love, that we may sing for joy all our days. Let your deeds be seen by your servants, your glory by their families. May your favor, O God, be upon us. Establish the work of our hands, that it may long endure. Death has summoned our beloved Neal Seth Fenster. Our souls cry out unto you, O God. What are we? Are we the creatures of dust whose destiny is but to return to the dust from which we came? The ancient sage has taught us the spirit of the human being is the lamp of the eternal. Not even the darkness of death can extinguish the light which the eternal has kindled in the sanctuary of the human soul. Therefore, O God, we thank you in this solemn hour for that which was deathless in the life of our cherished Neal, and which is now revealed to us in all of its beauty. For his love that united us in life and which death cannot sever. For his companionship, which we shared along life's path and which still continues through the tenderness of memory. For the gifts of his heart and of his mind, which brought us joy and happiness and now have become a precious heritage of the Spirit. For all these and more, we give you our praise. Grant unto us, O God, the strength of all the generations of our people, who in the face of bereavement proclaimed, Adonai Natan, Adonai Lakach, Yehi Shem Adonai Mevorach. God has given, God has taken away, still, blessed be the name of God. In this week's Torah portion, God tells Moses to send out some scouts to check out the land and to bring back a report of its condition and cities and its people and produce. The scouts representing the 12 tribes of Israel make their way in, but they lose their confidence, and only 2 of them, Joshua and Caleb, have the presence of mind and willingness to persevere, to do what's necessary to enter the land and to complete the journey. Joshua and Caleb are thus honored in the tradition for their faith and their fortitude. Today we honor Neal for having had a similar kind of faith and fortitude. Like our ancestors, Neal was charged with determining how to make things work. Neal was the kind of person who persevered until the system he was building was completely functional. He had the intellectual capacity to understand complex electrical arrangements that would facilitate the outcome of keeping substances from sulfur to chocolate flowing smoothly at the right temperature. A patient man, Neal liked working with the intricacies of design. He was your go-to, get things done kind of person in the companies in which he worked, and even more so when he went out on his own. By his integrity and his ingenuity, Neal set the standards for his industry. With honorary plaques of recognition hanging on his wall from the Industry Standards Committee, Neal was celebrated for the way he helped to transform the field of electrical engineering from a trade into a profession. Neal had always been interested in how things were put together. Born on August of 1947 in Cleveland, Ohio, Neal was the beloved first son of the late Joseph and Lillian. His birth would be followed a couple years later by Reynard and a few years later by Gary. He was especially close with his brother Ray, and the 2 of them were also lifelong friends, sharing in family celebrations and caring about each other through one's families. As a child, Neal liked to tinker with toys and tasks, and later this would develop into his profession. A graduate of Mayfield High School, Neal was that fine balance between outgoing and enjoying talking to people, and also studious and sensitive to the changing times. A good conversationalist, he could speak to anyone, and that skill would help him with communicating with the linemen to the heads of corporations. Originally, however, these skills were used as he worked as a grease monkey, fixing up cars, and as a lifeguard. His mom was also a lifeguard who would sometimes cover for him. Working and going to school would continue as Neal went on to attend Cleveland State University. There in his freshman year, he met the lovely Nina at a B'nai B'rith mixer. Apparently, standing next to the snack table, his usual MO for a lifetime love of snacks and his version of water cooler talk, he remarked that there were no other engineering students present, unless that girl over there was one. And of course she was. She was a Cleveland Heights High grad attending Fenn College, which would merge with CSU, and they'd end up taking some classes together too. They would date through college, and after he graduated, he'd save money for a car and also for their future plans. He was a planner in every way. When Nina finished a year later, she had been on a work-study program to put herself through college. They saved 1 more year for their wedding. The festive day would take place at Park Synagogue under the big dome with Rabbi Armin Cohen, Nina's rabbi since childhood. It didn't hurt that Nina already knew some of the family from her early years in school. His uncle, Mr. Goldsmith, was her teacher, helping Nina to bond with their family even more deeply. After they married, the 2 worked toward their goals. Neal did not want to have a starter home, so they saved together for their forever home, which would be in Chesterland on a 5-acre property with abundant trees. Neal did not want to have to mow the yard. And the property also had good yields of blackberries that they could share with family and friends and make into pies. They established a kosher home, much like the one Nina and Neal were each raised in. Although Neal, the grandson of a kosher butcher, was less committed to the concept outside their home. But he led a meaningful Seder that they hosted for the whole big family, the Ganze Mishpacha. Neal was especially close with his mother, who, after divorcing their father, relied on her boys, and Neal and Nina were great support. Neal and Nina were great support for each other as they celebrated 54 years of marriage. As a couple, they were devoted to each other and enjoyed their circle of friends and family. Many people Neal met through their engagement with local amateur radio groups. He was a big part of these groups for Lake and Jaga counties. He liked to talk, and through that group he shared a lot of his expertise. In fact, Neal was the kind of guy who knew a lot about a broad array of subjects, which made him a great conversationalist with interesting topics to comment on. A voracious reader of sci-fi and how-to books, he had vision and know-how that helped with tasks around the house and in his work. He and Nina would attend work-related engineering conferences all around the country, visiting Vancouver, California, Texas, and Orlando this past year. Neal liked to dress up for the formal nights and always looked dapper and distinguished. These were their primary vacations, as Neal was generally a homebody. Neal had some hobbies that took him out of his home front, however. An excellent photographer, he created a side business and became a wedding photographer. He had a good eye for people and could keep them calm. That's a sensitive job with many personalities, which he seemed to manage quite adequately. That respect for romance seemed to fit in quite gracefully with his other hobby of writing clever and sweet poetry for every occasion in Nina's life. He would seal himself off to compose a special poem for her birthdays and their anniversaries, and Nina has collected these into a special binder. This was no rigid engineer type, but a sweet and sensitive kind of man. It was celebrating their wedding anniversary, which would have been May 9th, but they waited for the Saturday night on the 10th that changed their lives dramatically. Driving to dinner, Neal suffered a stroke behind the wheel. Suddenly, Nina realized the car was veering, and thank God it was on a slow-speed street before they made it to the freeway. The car was stopped by a telephone pole that activated the vehicle's emergency call to 911. While help quickly came, Neal suffered a second stroke on the way to the hospital. Just as Neal had been devoted to Nina through her health challenges, always asking what he could do to make her life easier, Nina was devoted to Neal in this difficult month. There was, however, very little that you could do to change the course of events. Neal Seth Fenster enjoyed 77 years of life. In his passing, we remember his dedication to his family, especially to Nina, and we think of how his competency impacted the technologies of his day. A man of optimism, he created opportunities for others all along his life's journey. As we conclude his life's journey, we join with the sages now to declare, Zichrono Livracha, may his memory be your blessing. Amen. Each of you has precious memories of Neal. We take this moment as we silently compose the eulogy of our own hearts. Yehu l'ratzon imrei fi, v'hegyon libi lefanecha Adonai tzuri v'goali. May not only the words that we speak, but even our most precious meditations and private memories be acceptable to you, our God, our rock, and our Redeemer. Amen. We ask God to receive Neal's soul with the words of El Malay. I'll invite you to please rise. El Malay Rachamim, Shochein Ba'maromim, Hamsei Menucha Nechona Tachat Kanfei HaShechina, Im Kiroshim Utehorim, Kezohar Harakia Mazhirim Et Nishmat Noach Set Ben Leah VeYosef, Shehalach LaOlamo, Bal HaRachamim Yastirehu Beseter Kanafav LaOlamim, Bitzror HaChaim Et Nishmato, Adonai hu nachalato ve'yanuach b'shalom al mishkavo v'nomar amen. O compassionate God, eternal Spirit of the universe, grant perfect rest in your sheltering presence to Neal Seth Fenster, Noach Set, son of Leah and Yosef, who has entered unto eternity. O God of mercy, let him find refuge in your eternal presence, and let his soul be bound up in the bond of everlasting life. God is his inheritance. May he rest in peace. And let us answer, Amen. Amen. You may be seated. Our service remembering Neal will continue at the Beit Olam Cemetery, and the family will observe Shiva from the time after our services till 6 p.m. tonight, on Monday 6 to 8, and Tuesday from 2 to 8, Wednesday 6 to 8, and Thursday 2 to 8. We continue our service at the cemetery at the corner of Richmond and Chagrin.